15th, which is coming up here. Then there's an audit window for a couple weeks where the NDE staff review all the data in the advisor follow-up collection, and they touch base with you if they're concerned about things. And that audit window closes on October 2nd, which allows time for that membership count date on October 1st, some of that data to trickle in to assist with your follow-up. The data that's collected in this collection is specific to student and teacher course section updates. So this would be only updates from year end. So things that kids did over the summer, making up courses, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of year end enrollment updates. So this could be the kiddos that you weren't sure where they're at, but now you know that they dropped out, your summer transfers, those who moved over the summer, and then any completers who maybe utilized the summer do those catch-up classes and graduate, and then you can report their graduation record in May. And then another key data point is for special education data, and this would be your summer transfers or any kiddos that maybe have exited SPED over the summer, and then any updates to your Title I information. So I think it's really important to emphasize that the follow-up collection is meant only for data that wasn't reportable by that year-end deadline of June 15th, 30th. It's not meant to be a way to fix your year-end data, because not all data points are collected that were collected at year-end. It's meant to be only to make corrections or to make updates to data that wasn't available by that year-end deadline. So we use the data for several different purposes. We've got quite a few federal SPED reports. This could be anywhere from birth to 3 to school age kiddos. We utilize it for graduation and dropout rates. There's a link here to our Nebraska Education Profile page. Later this fall, we'll have updates on that page that give a lot of that information from the 22-23 school year. The accreditation team uses the course data to determine instructional units, and the career education team uses it for some Perkins reporting. And I think it's, again, important to note that some of the year-end data that you're updating now and making updates to has actually already been used. So like the SPED team uses SPED counts for their ILCD 3.0 that came out in August. And the accreditation team followed up with districts regarding their instructional units back in May. It doesn't mean that you can't change the data, because you can, and we want you to make corrections. It just means that the data is used at year end. This is just for those updates and edits. So what do I, as a district data steward, do? How do I even begin? Where do I start? So the first thing you'll do is you'll go into advisor validation, the collection, and you're going to change the school year to 22-23. Once you get there, you're going to see if you have any errors that are listed, and you're going to utilize the lookups to assist in investigating those errors. So there's several different kinds of lookups. You can look up a kiddo by their enrollment. You can look up a student and see all the data reported just for that one kiddo. You can do some lookups by a demographic key field, let's say 504 maybe, and you can also do some SPED lookups. It's important, there's a couple resources here. This is the link to the help site, because some of the errors, and we'll go through some of these here in a little bit, are listed and detailed on how to fix them on the help site. So, but it's really important to start with the 22-23 school year, because that's our focus. Then later on, once you've done 22-23, you can go look at the 23-24 school year. The 23-24 school year, the one we're in now, it is used to assist you with your 22-23 follow-up collection, but not all of the data is going to necessarily be ready. And we just last week had some changes in links and where the database is located that may impact the ability for some districts to get their 23-24 data going. I know a lot of schools are starting that right now. So a lot of the 23-24 data just isn't ready yet. So that's why we're going to really focus on the 22-23 school year. Excuse me. There is a new category when you're reviewing your advisor validation errors. It's called prior year. It's not new errors. These errors already existed. It's just a new category. And we're taking that category and we're putting errors in there that are impacted by multiple years data. So when you're looking, let's say you're looking in the 23-24 school year at this error category prior year, these errors are actually related to your 22-23 data. So this is kind of an overlap that's going to be important to evaluate as you're conducting your follow-up collection research. A lot of them are specific to SPED and enrollment. And I think what's challenging with these is evaluating where the change and the correction and the update in your data needs to go. And that's where the service desk, your consortiums can help you with that. But if the correction is needed in the prior year, so let's say that you're looking in the 23-24 errors and the errors related to 22-23 data, it's important that we get it fixed in the 22-23 data. Let's do it now while we can and while the follow-up collection is open. Because once the follow-up collection is closed, it gets a little bit more challenging to make those data updates. And sometimes there's kind of a trickle-down effect of things that just don't quite line up right. So now is the time to take a look at these. So here's a couple of examples of these errors. And for those of you who have been around, these won't look new because you've probably worked through them before. One of them is the 546 error, and this is relating to a special education student that doesn't have a special education exit date who doesn't appear in the following school year. So you have a kiddo who was receiving services in 22-23 and then just isn't reported anywhere in 23-24. We have a link here to our help site. I'm going to go ahead and click on it and see if I can get it to populate up here. And this is a article specific to this error. So it talks about the error. It details what the error is, kind of what I just described. And then it says, okay, so the student was reported as enrolled in the prior school year as receiving SPED services, but they weren't exited. So is this kiddo still receiving SPED services? And it'll list the possible ways to fix the error here. And this can be really helpful for y'all when you're going through your errors. Another one of the prior year errors is 523, and this is relating to a student who was in grades K-8 who doesn't have an enrollment record in the following year. So if the kiddo didn't transfer out or go somewhere else, why aren't they enrolled in a Nebraska public school the next year? And here's another link to another help site article that breaks down this error and how to fix it. So we try to do as many articles with these prior year errors as we can because they can be challenging. So once you've gone through and you've looked at your 22-23 errors, the next thing you're going to want to do is review your advisor validation verification reports. And again, I'm just going to reemphasize, it's your 22-23 reports that you're reviewing. There's a link here back to the Workday site. At the very bottom, there's an Excel file that lists each of the reports that we suggest you review during the follow-up window. And you're going to want to go through those and review those. As you're opening up those reports, you'll notice various reporting windows. So you've got end of year, and that's what we call your live data. That's the data that's changing, and you can make edits to. Then you've got your end of year locked reports. These are the reports that on July 1st or at midnight on June 30th, we captured that data set at that point in time and we locked the data. And that's what's been used up until now. So you kind of want to look at your locked reports to see, is everything right in here? Because if it's not, your opportunity to update in the live data and rewrite and overwrite that locked report. That's what this collection is for. It can also be helpful if you want to see the full year window for your reports, and that's for any students that are enrolled in your district at any time. And that's typically a live report. That's not a locked report. So that's your live data that's ever flowing and moving and changing based on what y'all send us. Once you've gone through your errors, fix those, you've reviewed your reports, you've had other people, maybe the SPED director, review the reports that are applicable to the data sets that they know. The final step is for your superintendent on or around the deadline, which is October 2nd, for them to log into the advisor validation collection and approve the 22-23 follow-up collection window. This approval won't open until a couple days before the 2nd. So you're going to work on your data all this month, and your superintendent's not going to approve it until the very end of the month. So a couple considerations while you're going through this process. Any districts that still need to publish 22-23 school year data between Monday and this deadline, they need to have their student information system configured to use a new advisor URL. So if you don't have consortium support, or you haven't talked to your student information system about this, we may have some challenges sending in 22-23 data because it's a different URL to send that to than it was at the year end. So we can talk through that and help you with that. But it's important to kind of make sure that you work with your SIS vendor to get that updated before you start making these 22-23 changes, because whatever errors you see, if you're not connected to Advisor, it's not going to make any fixes for you unless you have that right URL. So a couple sort of reminders about this particular data set. Some common items and issues that we see and that are related to the follow-up collection are enrollment and SPED exit dates not matching. So you've got a kiddo who you say graduated in May, but doesn't have a SPED exit date. Well, if the kiddo graduated in May, so there's probably going to need to be a SPED exit date because they're not going to be receiving services anymore. Those are some examples. That's an example of that. We have an exit enrollment type of 205, not enrolled, eligible to return. That has to be resolved. So you can't leave a kiddo exited with a 205. So that's an important one to look for, because you'll want to resolve those either with a re-enrollment because you've seen the kiddo show up somewhere else, or you could change it to a transfer out to a public school, or perhaps you'll have to change it to a dropout, that the kiddo never did show up anywhere to receive their schooling. And then instructional units that you may need to update through changes in your course data. A couple other error examples that aren't specific to these kind of year-over-year changes, but just that are ones that are common in the 22-23 follow-up collection. One error would be 734, and it's no course sections reported at a school. So this error, if you're seeing this in your 22-23 data, it should alert you to the fact that, something is wrong. Why did all my course data disappear from Advisor from last year? I got to get that back into Advisor. So that may need a meeting with your school and your student information system to figure out, where did all my course data go? Because remember, you've got the course data in your locked reports. Everything's good there. But in your live data, all your courses are missing. So when we go to do the overwrite, it's going to go from this really solid data in this locked collection to like everything's missing. So it's important to follow up on those kinds of errors too. Another error example is 439, no current school enrollment record for a high school student enrolled in the previous year. This is a prior year related one. So let's say the kiddo moved out of state over the summer. So you'll want to go back into your 22-23 data and change their exit enrollment, or add something that says they transferred out of state. Another example error, 716, relates to student demographics data missing for a kiddo enrolled in the district. So this is another kind of student information system one that gets a little tricky here too. That means at some point you had demographic data in Advisor for this kiddo because you were able to send enrollment information. And then at some point that demographics data disappeared and all that was left in Advisor was an enrollment record. Well, in order for that enrollment record data to count, we need the demographic information on the kiddos. So you'll have to work with your student information system to figure out how that demographic data was removed and get it reported back into Advisor. And there is a link here to that particular error. We do have an article on that one. So if that's one that you find yourself faced with. So that's the majority of the step-by-steps for your follow-up collection. We will be doing a separate collection because we know Advisor 23-24 fall collection data is starting now too, right? We have to work on two different collections at the same time. So we'll do a separate presentation and recording for that one at a later time. Today, the focus is on the follow-up data and the follow-up stuff. Here's a couple resources for you. The service desk email address, email us, starts a ticket. do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. You've got your consortium and student information system support. Please utilize the work days. We worked together, your student information systems and NDE and SRS, to get these set up for you. So we really hope that you can participate and get benefit from these. And then here's a link to the bulletin. If you're not already subscribed, definitely do. It's got helpful information in there. Here's a link to the Advisor webpage. This has all the resources specific to Advisor, talks about the calendar, Advisor data elements, which is awesome. It's basically the dictionary of Advisor. It tells you what every data point and provides a description of what that data point is. The service desk uses this one a lot. Who reports what? So you've got a unique reporting situation. You're not quite sure how to report the student. These two documents of who reports what and systems involved student reporting can be really helpful. There's a link to the course codes and clearing endorsements website. There's some guidance related to Advisor Person ID. And even if you're trying to figure out another school district's number or the name of a school, there's some lists there for the current district systems in the state that can be very helpful. And then lastly, we've got a link here for staff reporting. We did a reporting there. That's another collection that's happening right now that has a deadline of September 15th. So that's another one to be paying attention to. We've got some consolidated data collections that are open right now that close at the end of October, something else to be paying attention to. And then our Advisor Person ID, which is the student IDs for the kiddos. There's some instructions and a pre-recorded presentation here related to that particular collection. So with all that said, let me go ahead and get out of here. And I talked